Hi, my name is Divia Thani, and I won the Sheth Award in 2012. So I graduated from the University of Pittsburgh in 2001, and I ended up going back to India and starting on a career in publishing. After a few years, I found my sort of groove, and I was in magazine lifestyle journalism. I worked at Time Out. I was part of the launch team of Vogue in India. And in 2010, I became the first editor of CONDÉ NAST Traveler in India. And that was really exciting. It was my first time as editor of anything, as editor-in-chief of anything. And it was a really amazing opportunity. And I was very young when I got it. And that was 2010 that we launched. And I was very fortunate, but we did very well right off the bat. So I was thrilled when in 2012, my old professor at the University of Pittsburgh at Bradford actually reached out to me and told me about this award and said, Divya, I think you should apply. I didn't think I had a chance, to be honest, but I did because I was a good student. I always did what the professors told me to do. And I was delighted to hear that I won. I was so grateful and excited because it also gave me a chance to come back to Pittsburgh and to meet my old professors who were so kind to come to the ceremony. I got to meet Dr. and Mrs. Sheth as well. And it was just such a thrill to be in that room. I remember my best friend flew in from the Caribbean to be there as well. I had some of my old college friends who still lived in Pittsburgh. They were so kind to invite everybody to be there in that moment. And it just really reminded me of what made Pitt so special. It really was just this amazing connection and relationship that I was able to develop with so many faculty members. They really guided me as, I think, as an international student, you in a new place, and I was, I'm really telling my age here, but when I started out as a freshman, it was 1997. I didn't even have a computer or the internet back then. And really just having that environment at Pitt and those professors to really guide me and tell me what everything was about, tell me what the opportunities were that I even had access to was so, so important to me. And it really changed the direction of my life. So I'm so grateful. And for Dr. and Mrs. Sheth to create an award like this, I think to celebrate young international alumni of the school is really meaningful, and I think a really powerful thing, and so, so important and exciting for a university like the University of Pittsburgh to have, because it's such a great school. And I think that I always tell everybody about it because I think that more and more international students really ought to come because they learn so much there, but also I think they contribute something that is so unique and significant to the student body that I really hope more of them come. And I think initiatives like the Sheth Award go a long way in attracting international students. So I'm a huge fan and very grateful. After I received the Sheth Award, I can't say that it changed the direction of my career because I was on this path and have been since. I did receive the award in 2012. I was the first recipient, which is so special. And at the time, I was the first editor of CONDÉ NAST Traveler in India. Since then, in 2020, actually at the end of 2020, I was promoted to becoming the first ever global editorial director of CONDÉ NAST Traveler. So I now run not just the India edition, but all 7 of our editions around the world, from the US to the Middle East to China and across Europe. And it's been an amazing journey for me. So I'll start with the lessons that I learned at Pitt, and I learned so much, and some of it was in the classroom and some of it was outside of the classroom. But I will say that even in the classroom, the professors that I had at Pitt, the kind of literature, and I was a literature major, the kind of literature that I was reading at the time, I had never read before in my life. I grew up reading mostly British and Indian, pretty much British literature. And it was the first time that in a structured way, I was reading American literature and Latin American literature. And at the time, what they called, sadly, third world literature, which we no longer say, but literature that came from pretty much everywhere else. And reading the greats there just changed the way that I thought about writing. It changed what I consider it to be literature. It made me question what the canon should be, why it was. I think that it really just, in a weird way, studying at Pitt connected me more to my own culture and my own country, because I was able to look at it from a very different perspective and look at it from the perspective of people that had studied it academically and had spent a lot of time there and had devoted their careers and years of their lives to studying South Asia. And I had never met people like that before. So it really, for me, allowed me to look at my own upbringing, my own culture, the way that I was raised in a way that I never had been able to before. And that was life-changing for me. To be honest, I developed an appreciation for my culture that I think I lacked before. So it was really instrumental to not just for me academically, but just from my own personal growth. And I think those years at college were just were amazing in terms of the learning that I was having every day. I really credit Pitt for focusing so much on faculty and their relationships with the student body. I used to have classes that were sometimes 5 and 6 students. I had the ability to walk into my professors' cabins at any point to discuss something with them. It was really an incredibly rich relationship. And I'm in touch with many of those professors still, because I see them as still as my guiding lights sometimes. And sometimes just to say hello and tell them how important it was for me to have them in my life at that time. So it really was an amazing few years of my life. And I graduated kind of early, and I kind of wish that I had taken my time and just stayed on longer, because it was such a great experience for me. In terms of the advice that I would give students, I actually have something that I wrote when I graduated college, and I gave it to my niece who was going to university at the time in America. And it was 50 things that I wish I knew before I went to study in the US. And I have pretty much every few years added to that list, and I give it to anyone in my family that's going to study abroad for university for the first time, because it is daunting and scary, even in today's day and age where you can see everything online, and these kids are doing college tours, and they've checked everything out, and they kind of know everything before they get there. Even when you do, I think being away from home, so far away from home if you're international, is still a really big deal. And it's something that is still very hard to do when you're 17 and 18 years old. And the advice that I find myself coming back to time and again when I talk to them is to give it time, not to put too much pressure on yourself, to enjoy yourself, everything is not about the grades. So think about everything else that you can get from that time. And I always tell them to take the hard classes. I think that that's the big thing. Take the hard classes, take the professors that are known to be the hard professors, because I find so many students hear about professors beforehand and look at their ratings online, and then they avoid those professors. But I've always found that professors that were really demanding really expected the best out of you, and they pushed you in that direction. And yes, it's hard, but the amount that I learned from those classes, I didn't learn that much in the easy ones at all. And so I always tell them, take the hard classes, take the professors that are tough, because you learn so much more, and that's what you're here to do. And so I find that it's a balance between knowing when to stick with it, stick it out, demand more of yourself, and then giving yourself a break and realizing that the grades it's not always about the grades. It's okay not to get a 4.0. It's fine to miss Dean's List once in a while. But it's really important that you look at every day as an opportunity to learn and to enjoy and just to enrich yourself. So that's the advice that I would give anyone that's coming in. Give yourself a break every once in a while. It's not, it's not the end of the world if you drop a class, or if you just don't make Dean's List. I think that's a big thing, especially for Asian kids like myself. There's a lot of pressure to succeed academically, but honestly, it just doesn't matter that much once you graduate. That's the truth of it. So, so yeah, that's what I would tell them. Dr. and Mrs. Sheth, I want to say thank you so much for this incredible award and for bestowing it to me the very first year that you created it. It feels so special. And I want you to know that I've come a long way in my career since that day and since that year. But I go back to that night when I won this award over and over in my head. I think about it very often, and I think about it usually when I'm at really low points in my life, in my career, when I'm doubting myself, when I think about, should I really be here? Am I cut out for this job? Should it have gone to somebody else? Am I going to be able to do it justice? Did they pick the wrong person? And the truth is, I do have those thoughts every so often. And I find myself going back to that night and feeling so special and feeling so encouraged by the fact that I won this award, because I think so highly of the both of you and of the University of Pittsburgh and all my faculty there and the people that chose to give me this award. And sometimes it helps when you don't have that much belief in yourself on a certain day. It really helps to know that others have that belief in you. And I find that award, knowing that it came from you, knowing that it came from Pitt, from a community that I respect so much, really takes me through the very hard days and the hard moments, and reinforces to me that I can do this, I've got this, and I will be okay, and that there's a reason that I'm here. So I cannot thank you enough for that, because I think more and more people like myself really do need that validation sometimes, and that support and encouragement. So I thank you so much for that, and on all of our behalf, I would like to say thank you so much for creating this award and sticking with it for 10 years. It is so special, and thank you.